Hello everybody and welcome back to the Marvel Training Podcast, episode 106, with me, Richard.
Me, Dan. And me, Liam.
And today we have a room full of people. We have three wonderful guests with us, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Sara.
My name's Paul Cashmore.
And I'm Claire Robertson.
Alright, we'll get straight into it. As people can see who are watching the video, you can see these wonderful branded t-shirts of yours. Is it like to tell us a bit about it, about Batton of Hope?
We got involved with the Batton of Hope around a year ago. We saw a advert, if you would like.
We did, saw an advert on social media, sort of advertising for some people to come and join and lead a tour around Sheffield. So we sent an email.
We sent the email. Claire responded to that originally and then decided that the job required maybe more than one person to take on the project lead role. So I got involved.
Unfortunately, I dragged my sister along into it.
Yeah, so it became a family affair, Killer.
We like working together, don't we?
We do. So we came on board with that about February time. So just a year ago, to start the project lead role that would take place in 12 cities in 12 days. The Batton of Hope is co-founded by Mike McCarthy, who was a well-known journalist. He lost his son Ross to suicide 3 years ago. So we got involved with that, about a year ago, didn't we?
About a year ago. When Ross took his own life, he left a 10-page letter and left it so it could be found, and obviously his family found it, and one of the things was that he wanted to champion. He said that there wasn't enough out there for mental health and well-being, and he wanted his family basically to take up the mantle and leave something that would be sort of his legacy, so to speak, and it would be within the community, that it would help, because there just wasn't enough he felt that there wasn't enough out there for him. So we came on board, we met Mike, we had a conversation around what we could do. Sheffield was obviously one of the cities at the time. Mike is from Sheffield, and it was sort of putting in place sort of a tour that a beautifully presented baton, a bit like a relay baton, could be carried by family members and people who had been touched by suicide themselves, around our amazing city. So we didn't really know what we were getting involved with. It was a life-changing experience, I think, for people that we met along the way and stuff that we've done. Obviously, myself and Sara run Direct Action Training, which is a training business. Obviously, like Marvel, which is why we met Ash in the first place. So we're talking about mental health and wellbeing and first aid. So that was one of our passions when we came to the Batton of Hope. So both myself and Sara have been touched by mental health and wellbeing, so we were very passionate about it, and hence why the hook to the Batton of Hope and the project lead sort of voluntary role came about.
Paul, how are you involved in Batton of Hope?
I decided to join LinkedIn. I'm not on LinkedIn anymore. I was on it for very briefly. And through somebody else who we connected to, who was doing a lot of stuff for mental health, reached out, and we connected on LinkedIn, and he mentioned the Batton of Hope. So that he was doing some stuff with this initiative. So I said, count me in, what can I do to help? So he put me in touch with Mike. I reached out to Mike, sent Mike a message, and he told me all about it. I said, what can I do? And I told Mike my backstory, and he said, would you be an ambassador? And I said, absolutely. You tell me what you need. What can I do? Anything I can do to help, I'm there. And so it was really like just do it by chance. And then I met these two lovely ladies at the event in Sheffield, where the Batton was coming through. And I want to continue to do whatever I can. And certainly when Mike reached out, I've had, obviously we could talk about this kind of stuff later, but I've had people FaceTime me and message me. I've had an ex-RAF guy say, can you FaceTime me? And when someone FaceTimes you and they're saying, I'm Googling insurance policies to see if they will pay out to my family because I'm going to kill myself. How do I, what do I do?
Wow.
So we had a chat. Yeah, it was that. And then I think about things, and I've got a lady who was on the 17th floor of a balcony who had cut her wrists and was going to jump off. And in my old career, I'm on the balcony with her and trying to talk her and stop her from jumping off this balcony. And I got her down, and we went to hospital, and she sought some help, and there was a psychiatrist there, and there was another young girl who was going to jump off a bridge, managed to get over a bridge, and it just opened it up. There's just much more we can do to stop people from doing it. I just think I genuinely believe that no one wants to commit suicide. They just want that pain to stop.
Yeah.
Just take that pain away, or take that sadness away, and that's just the last resort. And I think there's so much more. I think what these guys are doing is incredible, and what anyone else is doing to make awareness of it. And I want to do what I can to help.
And all of these examples that you brought up, these scenarios, have these come through from, like, via the Batton of Hope, where these people had seen you part of this process, and that's why they've reached out to you, or was this before? Or?
No, so I joined the Met when I was 21, and that exposes you to some stuff that you think is just should be on a film set. Like, this stuff doesn't exist in real life, and I didn't realise that I was going through massive anxiety, horrific, and I'm like, no, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen to guys. Guys don't get this kind of stuff. You just get on with it, and you don't play a bit of sport. You go to the pub, and that's the kind of thing you don't talk about. This kind of stuff, and then having saved these people and been exposed to it and seen it, it got to a point where my anxiety levels were so bad. I'd got an Apple Watch on, and my heart rate was going from 30 to spiking to 170 odd beats a minute. I've gone to the GPs, and he said they can't find it. There's no heart condition, so I'm fit and healthy. But what's happening is I'm now getting anxiety attacks because all the stuff I'd seen and witnessed and dealt with, and the stress and the complete overload. I needed to handle that. Otherwise, I'm going to have a heart attack. I've got children. I'm going to be no good to anybody. So I'm in denial of anything that's going wrong. And when people have this perception of you, certainly from a bloke's perspective, is everyone thinks, oh, you're a tough bloke. You do this and everything else. So you go, you've got to kind of live up to this image.
Yeah.
You know? And then it went from there. So then when I left the Met, I ended up being a bodyguard for a while. I'd saved someone else's life and did all this kind of stuff. So on the outside, it looks great. And I was cast in the TV show Hunted. I've done OK magazine shoots and blah, blah, blah. When everyone thinks it's great, I think life's great. You put some Instagram posts up, oh, you look great, or this, that and the other, and everything else. But internally, I'm fucked. I'm having a shock. You could say, yeah. So this is like I'm in a bad way now. So I'm pretending now to live this life of I'm going to the gym, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm on TV, I'm doing this kind of something else. But internally, I'm fucked. And I told all this to Mike, and I said to him, and it was weird how things happen for a reason. And so I went back to the GPs, and I talked to someone. They said, "Oh, we think you've got complex PTSD," and that stemmed back from childhood to then witnessing a load of stuff in the police and dealing with things. And I'm like, no, I refuse. But I'm not going to go on this and take some medication and mask it. I need to find other things. So I went on this journey, and I started researching mindset, Buddhism, meditation, nutrition, how the gut microbiome affects men. Every single thing I could absorb and research, I just went on a mission to find out how I can not cure and do it myself. And then I met the Nicodemus Speakman on when I was filming, who cured people of PTSD. So I went to their workshops, I've listened to them, and just became a sponge to deal with it and go, you know what, the only way to help reduce the stigma is if I go, listen, I've been there, I've done it, I've read a book, I've been there where I've been emotional, I've been upset, I've begged for someone to just take this sadness away. It's weird because you just feel sad, right? You can't shake this sadness off and you don't know what it is. So you become very confused of going, why do I feel like this? Why? And you go, I don't know what it is, I don't know what it is. Just stop. Just stop and just stop. Just take a step back. So I was like, you know what? Let's just cut all the nonsense and go, this is what it is, I am this tough bloke and stuff. And tell people, I've been there, I've struggled, I've been at the lowest point you could ever be, but I want to also tell you, it doesn't last. You can overcome it.
One of the things I noticed from doing a little bit of research on Batton of Hope is the use of the semicolon as an identifier. And obviously, semicolon indicates a pause. So it's pause, take a step back, carry on. And I think from what you've just said there, Paul, that's something that actually, it shows that it is real, it shows that it is something that does happen, and a way of potentially dealing with things. Just one thing that I've noticed from your story, actually, from your organisation, that actually does come through. Really big thing.
You were talking in your story as well about that there was a moment when the public eye just skyrocketed regarding the TV. You mentioned like OK Magazine, things like that. Would you say that had like your stress, anxiety? Would that peak? Did that have a significant effect? Did you find that you was a lot more conscious about being this tough man as what we've talked about because of this happening? Did like the public eye have a big effect on that at all?
Yeah, I think there's this thing about being authentic, and I read it about when there's a flow state and you can be in it. You can only be in it if you're being authentic of who you really are. So I feel like almost like I've got two sides to me. I've got a character that I think people expect me to be.
Yeah.
So even as a kid, you expected this. I'm playing rugby, I'm doing this, and lads, I've got to pub, I've got to drink beer, and I've got to do this and stuff and everything else. And I used to have this conflict of a battle of going, that's not really me, that I'm kind of living up to it because I'm being encouraged to be like that, and you're going out there to behave in a certain way, when really that kind of really wasn't me, and that lasted a long time. And then when all of a sudden you've got people, you've done the magazine shoot, you've done this kind of stuff on the else, and people have this perception of you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird at the same time. It's cool because I wanted it when I was a teenager. But why do I want it? Why did I want to be, well, not famous, I'm not really famous and stuff, but got a little bit. But why? And it's ego, it was my ego that wanted it. But equally, you want this validation, you want your parents or your friends to go, this is amazing what you've achieved, or you want some validation from people. When it took me a while to kind of change that around and going, well, what can I use this for? Am I doing the TV show, am I doing this kind of stuff for my own ego? I'll kind of sack the ego off and go, well, can I do it to help promote and do something else, like these guys?
Yeah.
So, not for my own personal gain, I don't need to be driving around in a Range Rover and doing this and people going, oh, you this. I actually don't need that. It's really weird where I've driven around in nice cars, I've done all this kind of stuff, and when I realise it doesn't make you happy. So you can drive around in a very expensive car, you can have expensive watches, you can have all this kind of stuff. It doesn't make you happy, it's fleeting, these things don't last. An expensive watch can break, an expensive car doesn't make an expensive car. And I give an example of, I had a car that was worth 500 quid. years and years and years ago. And it's a car that always stands out because I had the most fun with the people I was going on these journeys with and doing some fun things and going on holidays and things. We didn't have any money, and it was great. And it was much better than driving around a car that was very expensive and thinking, oh my god, it's just been scratched, there's something else or type of. No, it doesn't make me happy. The £500 car was the best car ever.
I think that's a big, like, not necessarily specific on an old car, but that, I think the problem, we had a conversation yesterday about this image that is being sold to young kids now and teenagers about on social media, that you have to get this car, you have to be incredibly rich and successful to be happy. And I think that's where, as a society, we are kind of downfall at the moment, because we're selling this to our kids and they're being missold essentially what the opposite of what you just said, the actual realism of life and what's valuable. So I think the message that you said is really important, and so yeah, I think it's really great.
It's material and it doesn't last. Rich knows this story quite well because it's what we touched on a previous podcast, talking about mental health. One of the things is in a previous job, I was quite well paid, lovely car, X, Y, Z, but two young kids at the time, they would have been 3 and 1, very roughly. But I haven't seen them working 60 or 70 hour weeks, and what for? Just so people see the nice car, so people, know that it's a good job with a great job title and it. But ultimately, I've got 2 kids at home that are saying, "Mummy, where's Daddy?" And to me, it was then time to move on. Absolutely love what I do now, and we do, like yourselves, a lot of training around first aid. But the big one that I do like doing is the mental health first aid, because of I previously I would have never said no. I've never had mental health issues, but then obviously getting to understand it, I think I have, and that's one of the reasons why I left the previous job that I was in. And I think actually recognising that we are currently today in Kidden Park, an old coal, quite topical because of the anniversary coming up, but an old coal mining village where men are men and women have tea on table. No offence, it's International Women's Day, everybody said it. Yeah. Women have the tea on the table when you get home and all that. But times change, and now it is a case of you can say something's wrong, and you should say something's wrong, you should ask for help, and you should seek these things out, and it actually makes a huge difference. And to me, in my own life, I now drive the £500 car, I now have a job that's not as well paid, but I'm home every day for 4:30, I take the kids to school, I pick them up, we go to the park, I take them to play football and swimming and dancing, and to me that's far more valuable than any amount of money. And we had a training course in here yesterday, and one of the things was, money gives you a certain quality of life, but it doesn't give you a value of life. And that is actually something that somebody said to me yesterday. That's a huge thing that I'll probably take away and never forget, actually, just from a throwaway comment from somebody, but value of life.
Really resonated, didn't it?
Yeah, massively so. Massively so.
Love that. It's time and memories that are, isn't it that thing when there's something in psychology you can earn, there's a ceiling of a certain amount of money you can earn, but anything over that is not going to increase any happiness or anything else. It'll give you choices. So if you can go on certain holidays or do something else or visit or do whatever it may be, but there's a ceiling of happiness, they say, really. But that's like your shelter, your house, your transport, your clothing, and everything else. But when you're talking like children, they want that time. They want that time. You can go to a park with a football and take a picnic. That's probably cost you a tenner.
Yeah.
£5, and they'll remember those little moments.
Yeah.
Than giving them something that's £1,000 that might be left in a drawer that becomes
£1,000 bike that's left in a garage because you haven't got time to take them out and play with it. Crazy. And to be fair, it did take me a while to get my head around that, and it is something that, in a way, does eat at me sometimes. I think, particularly for Isla, my daughter, she would have been kind of 3 by the time I left my previous job, and it was a great job, good company, great people, but I would do too much and then I missed out on them. So at the first 3 years of her life, I kind of getting home to read her a story and put her to bed. But I'd not have anything before that, not have the playing, the bathing her and doing all the things that parents should do with small kids. And it's one that actually now, I don't like to push things onto people, but if ever it comes up in conversation, we say, best thing I ever did, walk away from, you know, all the bonuses, but the things that come with it are not worth it. In my opinion, for what it's worth, they're not worth it.
Well, that's what I did. I taught for 16 years, had a bit of an epiphany, had a year off with stress and anxiety, decided that I love teaching and I love the kids and I love being in charge of a classroom of children, and that was what I wanted to do from a very young age. However, all what you've just said has resonated with me. I didn't have time for my son. I used to go on the laptop in the middle of the night. I used to work really hard, obviously, because it was a really stressful, integrate job that you needed to be on top of your game for. But I didn't spend time with Callum. I worked full time after I'd had him. I didn't have time for the bath, the bed, the read the story, all of that. And I think what you've just said resonated in the fact that I had to take a step back. I had that year off. I reevaluated what I wanted to do. Passionate about mental health and well-being, and like you came into the training industry for that reason. Did a little bit of work with direct action training, and sort of ended up buying the business and running the business and creating it into sort of a pocket of mental health and well-being. That because you're passionate about something, you hope that what you're doing and those little sparks will then resonate with other people.
Yeah,
most definitely.
And as a trainer as well, the guy that was on our course yesterday talked about the last time he'd done the course, and it's just almost some robot that's just stood talking to you.
Yeah.
It's like, you're clearly not passionate about it, so why should I value what you're telling me?
Yeah, buy into what you say, definitely.
Yeah. So obviously the fact that how passionate you are about what you were saying, it just multiplies what you're like to your students about what you want.
Definitely.
While we're kind of on this, with regards to kind of like, because my life's essentially mirrored yours. The reason why I'm here is because I've left my last job because I would have had a 3-hour commute, and basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to like help, you touched on it earlier about that you tried doing your own research, you looked into everything. Did you? I don't know if you did some research yourself, how much you've done that before you actually did all the mental health training. But did you find there was much access or much information of what help you could get? Because I think at the moment, I've actually been in therapy for the last 5 months, and I want to be an advocate of it, because people have this wrong intention of that, well, you've got to wait until it gets really bad before. It's almost like a reactive treatment rather than a preventative. And I think it surprised me just how easy accessible therapy is, but I had to go and find it. And I think we are in a world now where we're telling people that mental health is okay, it's okay to talk. We don't have to be these tough exteriors or these men or these strong adults that we were designed to, or we were taught to be. But I still think there is more work needed to kind of give pathways to go down. So we're now acknowledging that it's okay, but I still think we have to then do our own research. We have to go, right, well, it's okay for me to do it, but then how do I do it? Where do I go? What to do? Did you find it was the same for you, or in your scenarios? Because I personally thought it was the same for me.
I think there was a lack of access to it initially. There was probably a resistance from me in wanting to do it, because I thought I don't need it, which is ludicrous. But then I found that you hit a point, but no, that's too late. And then when you've hit the point where I say it's too late, there's a massive waiting list for things like CBT and counselling and therapy, unless you probably go private. Not everyone's got the funds and the access to be able to do that. When I was referred to CBT, there was a year waiting list.
Wow.
Yeah, a year. I was like, right, okay. But I'd hit that point of going, hang on a minute, I'm going to have a heart attack. So I've now reached that point now. And I've got a year to wait. And I was offered medication, and I turned it down. And when I read it, one of the things that they say is when I've got some friends who are on sertraline, I think, anxiety medication. Now, I would never say to people, don't take medication. If a doctor says you need to, this is my best advice to do it. But the stats say that those medications only work for 40%. I think it's about 40% of people.
Oh, wow.
And he talks about your serotonin levels and dopamine levels. And I think it's 90 to 95% of serotonin anyway is made in the gut, not the brain. So when I looked into that, and then you look at the sheet, if you're thinking and contemplating suicide, one of the things it will say at the top is it can actually increase those thoughts. So while you're waiting for the medication to kick in, this is probably super controversial now. I'm not real and a massive controversial. Because there are people who are against it and there are people who think you should do it. I'm actually against.
Right. Okay.
If you're on the brink now and you're in a really bad place and you're contemplating ending your life and you read those instructions, it will say it can actually increase thoughts of suicide.
Wow.
So where's the care around that? So if you're coming to see me now and I prescribe you this and you're telling me your life is so bad at the minute that you just want to end it, you cannot take this pain anymore, and I'm going to give you some medication, and for 2 to 4 weeks it's going to increase those thoughts. That's not for me. So you then go, well, I need to then how can we then go, what care can I give you and how can we change this around without making that worse and you going through even more horrific pain? And it just numbs it. I think it numbs it and it masks it.
Yeah.
We're not dealing with the actual root cause. Now if there is, I'm not the scientist, I'm not a doctor, but if there's a chemical imbalance or something that is not quite right, we need to fix that and tweak it. So things like ADHD or bipolar or whatever it may be that you're coming with and you're struggling with, how can you fix that chemically? Then fine. But if there is trauma or PTSD or stress or anxiety, or you've lost your job, your business has gone down, your marriage has failed, you're financially on the brink of losing everything, medication is not going to fix that. And you're probably not going to be so focused and being able to handle it and deal with it. So I would go, well, for me personally, I would say this is what you should do, is I would not go medications. All right, where do I start?
Yeah.
What's my battle plan now? How can I battle plan this? And find someone you trust and be able to talk it out and write things down and put everything that's getting you down and bring you down and chunk it and split it up.
Yeah.
And one of the little things I say to people is get the little smaller things, the little colourful post-it notes, write things down, and it might be cut the grass or hoover the car, something so small, and you write it down, and then you achieve that task, then you scrunch up the little post-it note, you get a dopamine hit because you've achieved something, you've done something, so you get a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And it's a reward. So they're the small tasks. The bigger tasks you can kind of go, well, what do I need to do here? And I say to people, first, ditch alcohol. Even for 6 months. I mean, ditch it forever if you want. But if you're struggling in life, the first thing I'll say to people is, alcohol's got to go. Alcohol's got to go, and you've got to sort your nutrition out.
Yeah.
And you've got to look at foods that give you, so tryptophan is a precursor to dopamine and serotonin. So you can get tryptophan food, like turkey or tofu, whatever it may be, anything else. And you have to load it with tryptophan foods, serotonin in the gut, and then I'm going off. I've gone really on my social. That's that. Right, here's my battle plan. Here's my battle plan for this. We're going to go. Oh God, shut up. Is your gut microbiome? You must see look at the science behind gut microbiome now. So when you take antibiotics, it destroys your gut microbiome. So if you're taking chemicals and other drugs, your gut's shot. So then you have to feed it. You've got to feed it. So your gut's your second brain. So I did that. I cut out alcohol, I sorted out my nutrition, upped my exercise, I wrote down everything I needed to deal with. There's a lot of things that we need to deal with. We procrastinate because they're painful.
Yeah.
So we avoid them. So then we'll go, well, let's just flip it around. So this is all the kind of stuff that I did, and it's super controversial because I gave a talk and talked about prescription drugs, and we had this to and fro, and I said it's not what I would say to everyone. This is what I did, and when I'm down here, and I have to bring myself back, it's not an overnight fix. So just to take something and think it's an overnight fix is never going to work.
It's like putting a plaster on a gun wound.
Yeah.
Because it's.
So we had.
That's along with an answer to your therapy question, but.
No, it was very interesting. So it's.
Yeah.
Would you say you're still very much on your journey?
Massively.
Yeah.
Huge. Learning all the time, speaking to different people, going out, certainly these guys as well. So many people have. I've got a friend who was suicidal, and his life was just destroyed. He lost everything. He's marrying somebody else, and his daughter wouldn't speak to him because of everything. And I just have to get sent to him. Look, yes, history's all gone. We can learn from it, but it's gone. It's over. And we sit there and we think about all the stuff that's happened. We attach an emotion to it, and you can relive those emotions today. So if I'm thinking about something that's happened to me and it's very traumatic, I'm going to almost live those emotions. So I used to say to him, look, we focus on today and just keep going. And it took him 6 years, and everything has just all now fallen into place. That is someone who was going, I've got nothing left. And nothing left for me at all. I'm out. And we're just today. That's all you've got to focus on today.
One small step at a time, but we had previous guests we've had in talked on a similar story, issues around alcohol, drug use, and we mentioned the word procrastinating, because it's painful to let go of some of them things, social groups, and things like that, and that was a massive thing for him. Again, kind of linking it to where we are now. We are in a small old-fashioned village where it's a local football team, a local cricket team, but the culture around it is, you mentioned rugby earlier, you finish playing, you're in the clubhouse, you just drink all night through, and it's the exact same thing. And he found his only way to do it was to just detach himself from it for a period of time until he was in a comfortable place where he could put himself back in that position then, but without the temptation of alcohol, etc. So, and his perspective was, he's still, I think he's 4 years sober now, but every day is the next day towards the end goal. And he basically described it in the same way as you. So I think for anybody out there, everybody's story is different, but it is ultimately, I think, it is all about just take that next step. Don't look to the end goal, because then it's daunting, it's huge, and as you said, little small steps, one job at a time, crunch it up, throw it away. That little one step, no matter what it is, whether it's the topics we're talking about or anything, just work in general, one small step at a time, everything's manageable. And if we can promote that, then I think things, in theory, should be far easier. Obviously, in reality, there are differences to that, but I think that is the way to try to tackle things.
Talking about the waiting lists again, and obviously the mental health, that kind of resonates with Batton of Hope, because Mike's son Ross, he was put on a waiting list, and unfortunately, obviously, he never got the care that he needed, and
He was 2 weeks into.
Yeah, I think he was 2 weeks into the wait, weren't he? But obviously, for us, me and Claire have experienced mental health difficulties and still do now. Obviously, Paul's talking about medication. We both are on medication. To look at us and to see us in daily life, people wouldn't know that we're struggling with mental health, because you have that sort of persona, and you kind of, it's a little bit taboo I think still
Yeah.
now, even though obviously we're promoting it and talking about it, the Batton of Hope is championing the fact that, you know, we need to be talking more, obviously the men's side of things as well. But you think that women talk, and they do, but again there's that taboo against around mental health. Yeah. And obviously the medication thing, and Paul's making a good point with all the things that you can kind of do without going to the medication. But I think for us, that medication's been a key point, because we were so low that I've suffered with PTSD. That's kind of where my mental health has come from, anxiety, panic attacks, because I had a bad experience after the birth of my son 7 years ago. So that's kind of my story around it. But I got to a point where family was saying, look, you need to go, you're struggling, you need to go and get some help. But again, it's that stigma of going, saying that, you know, I'm struggling or whatever. And without family, I wouldn't probably be where I am now, because I needed that help, didn't I? That help that you have from the people around you.
And I think sometimes the family and friends can be a hindrance in certain things, because it's the not wanting to share. But I think it's talking on the other side of it as somebody that potentially sees somebody else that they think is in a mental health crisis. It's just being there. It's just being a sounding board for when they're ready, letting them know, you know, for you know, kettle's always on. That's a throwaway comment that a lot of people make, but it's reinforce it, and make sure that they know that if you ever have to be there, you are there. A friend of mine, she is having, I think, experiencing or heading towards a crisis at the minute. And one of the issues is, it's one of the children is, she thinks on the spectrum, autism spectrum, and I'll be honest, I think that will head towards a diagnosis pretty soon. But obviously the challenging behaviours and things, it makes it extremely difficult. Now, my friend works in a school, so she sees other children and thinks, well, the method to deal with this disruptive child, if it's termed as that, is X. But then it's your own child, it's different. And actually the stigma around that, and saying to somebody, my child has autism, once you got the diagnosis, I think my child has autism, that in itself is a taboo, because you're labelling a child. And some people, particularly depending on, you know, your social status and the kind of families that people are from, no child in our family has issues, no, they just need to be disciplined better. And it's understanding people's own specific needs that can potentially help. I'll say my friend in this, or I think is heading towards a crisis. Long-winded way. I was going back to the point. We're talking about kind of us experiencing it. It's being there for somebody else that's experiencing it, because obviously before today we'd not heard Ross's story, but potentially if there was somebody there that it could not, but it all depends. But it may have made a difference. And I think the more we're open, you mentioned Liam and Paul, you touched on it as well, that the accessibility to services, I think it's getting better, but funding's a huge issue. Funding from government, local funding, regional funding. People only tend to see it when it's too late, or as awful as it is, once something's happened. Batton of Hope has started after the event, and if we can get there first, but then that relies on the good of the people like yourselves, giving your time and effort up, and that is, to me, that is a huge downfall of us as a society, that we're not putting this funding in. I know it's not our job to, but that this funding is not made available for things. So
one of the things that Batton of Hope wants to do, or one of the journeys that we want to go on, is to be able to create a place in the cities that we've done the tour, where there is somewhere where some people can go instantly and get that instant help. Because I had to go on a waiting list for CBT, so did Sara. Both touched on it as well. And going back onto your point about, the first thing I was offered was medication. I wasn't offered anything else. That was my first thing that the doctor offered me. And then I said, but is there not an alternative? Can I not find? And she said, well, there is, but there's a wait.
Yeah.
I can give you a packet of pills now, or you can wait. And I'm like, well, I'd rather wait. So I waited and did the CBT, and then the medication came afterwards. So one of the things that Batton of Hope wants to do is to obviously fundraise, which is what we're doing at the moment, but create those safe spaces where people don't have to wait, and they can, basically like a drop-in, where you can go and you can speak to people, and it's there rather than you having to go on this waiting list.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things that Ross touched on in his letters. It was the waiting.
Yeah.
That was the thing that touched. As I said, the family, but him the most. It was the wait that he couldn't get help there and then. He had to wait for it.
Yeah. Did you mention it was 2 weeks?
It was 2 weeks into his wait. Yeah, it was 2 weeks into his wait.
Tied into what you said, Paul, with the surgery, 2 to 4 weeks. So it all ties in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it definitely does.
The more access we can give as a community to people in need. Our local area, I keep touching on it, but obviously for this gets shared a lot in our local area. There is a local support group that is a mental health support group for any sort of issue. A group called Better Today, and the guy who runs it is a good friend of ours, John, and he's been on the podcast before. And he's had his own mental health crises. And he's kind of said the same things. It's about being available. So they run a drop-in session, I think it's 2 nights a week. But while he was in here with us, maybe an hour and a half, ping, 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 and he was saying that is people reaching out for help. So it is crazy the amount that actually still needs to be done. Things are getting better, I think, but there's still so much work to be done.
Yeah, massively so.
I think it is that the accessibility just needs to catch up with the response that people are getting now.
The demand.
The demand.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties back to what the reason why I asked is the fact that for the people that have gone to search for help, it's almost like that you're on a waiting list or you've got to do your own work. And I think that's something that definitely needs to be. So what this attempt, what Batton of Hope are doing to have this centre, that sounds like a huge step forward, and more people need to be doing it. So you said you got into Batton of Hope a year ago?
We did, yeah. We went to Batton of Hope a year ago. We obviously saw the advert. We were obviously from Sheffield originally, but we have the Sheffield postcodes and all that, but we live in Rotherham, so there's all that. There was debate going, obviously, around coming from Aston. So we saw it. I had a chat with Mike, then brought Sara on board because it's a bit of a massive daunting thing, obviously. Anxiety, ping, and can't cope with this, bring somebody else on board. And basically we designed a route for this amazing baton. It's about 1 metre high. It was designed by the goldsmiths to the king.
Very cool.
All free of charge. Going back to your semicolon, that's on it. It's got the casing just above the top is all like people folding onto each other, all on stepping stones and things. It's an amazing piece of artwork, and it's just a symbol of hope, basically, that people can connect with. I know there's various different interviews and things on the Batton of Hope website around people, how they felt carrying the baton, and a symbol of it. We tried, didn't we, Sarah, to go around lots of different places that we felt were embracing Sheffield and what Sheffield was all about. So we went to places like the Lead Mill, the City Hall, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United. We went down by the Institute of Sport, didn't we, down there? Yeah. Where else did we go?
We went sort of around where the Sheffield Children's Hospital is.
Yeah, we visited the hospital, we went to the park just outside the hospital, Western Park, and at each stop there was people that had been touched by suicide and they were carrying the baton, so they took it in turns and it was carried basically all the way through the streets, so like a big long walk. We were accompanied by the police. It went to the police headquarters, it had its photograph taken with the police horses. All sorts of things, and it culminated in sort of a small little sort of celebration in Tudor Square, where obviously Paul Ken did some talking. We had some local bands, just sort of celebrating the amazing things in Sheffield, but also championing the fact that the Batton of Hope is there for everyone. It's there for everyone to access, and this was replicated, as Sara said, in 12 different cities. And we were fortunate enough to go down to London, and we had a reception in 10 Downing Street with the Batton, and it went to the Houses of Parliament, it went on the Thames, it was driven in a Formula 1 car by Daniel Ricciardo, sort of Will Vaux had it, Paul had it, sort of lots of famous people sort of championed it, and we're getting involved in it just to get that message out there that people aren't alone, and there are things out there for them to access. But the Batton is sort of, it's really cool. It's an amazing piece of artwork.
Yeah, it reminds me. I've seen pictures of it, and it reminds me of the like the Olympic torch.
It does. Yeah, very much so. Yeah,
it does look really cool.
It's an amazing piece of artwork. So the fact that Mike was trying to get it insured, and he struggled to get it insured because it's such a unique piece, and there's only one of them. It's got little videos and things on the Batton of Hope website where it's been cast and made, so they've done different stages where you can see where it's been designed and things to this, this creative masterpiece that it is, and it comes in a big case and he carries it around with him. But it's amazing. It's an amazing piece of artwork just to symbolise that.
I think there wasn't any symbol, was there, for people that had lost somebody to suicide, and obviously now the Batton's been created. That Batton means so much to so many people, and you could see that obviously when we were going around the city, and the emotion that was sort of created, and sort of the people that sort of were developing relationships with each other, other families were connecting, those conversations were being started. It was just an incredibly emotional day, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
One of the things you kind of mentioned there was around, there being no symbol.
Yeah.
Probably, I'm only talking from sort of my own experience. Probably until around 5 years ago, it wasn't that there's no it wasn't just that there's no symbol. It was actually that suicide were almost, you mentioned taboo earlier, but just hidden. It was all, for some people, it was almost hidden away. We can't talk about that, and it, obviously that just encourages that to continue. So actually having something as a beacon to say it is okay to talk about it, and hopefully by talking about it we can help moving forward. So to actually have that as a celebration, as a monument to say it can get better, I think is a wonderful thing. Really, really wonderful thing. Particularly, like I said, in our area, I'm quite a proud Sheffield lad.
You can even narrow it down to Kiverton.
Yeah.
Your entire life.
But when you think historically as an area, it's an area that has had a lot of problems, and you touched on earlier about men's mental health, decline of steel industry, in particular where we are defining like the coal industry, and the mass unemployment and things like that. And so as an area, we kind of suffer really badly with mental health issues, and have done. But like I say, you can go back to the 70s, 80s, 90s of these declining industries, and I'm not saying no support, but very, very little support. And I think from sort of my own experience and things I've seen, it's only kind of in the last 5 years that it's become something that's more widely talked about. Went through university in the 2010s, I won't give too much, I'll give my age away. But that kind of even then wasn't something that people spoke about. Whereas now, through our training, we do a fair bit in places like universities. And every wall you walk past, there's a Andy's Man Club or a Samaritans or a XYZ. There's posters everywhere for you to say, if you need help, we're there. And that's never, from my experience, that's not never, but very, very rarely been there.
Yeah.
So, I suppose the question I'm coming to is, if you could do anything to improve it, what would you say to the general public would be your advice around probably spreading the awareness?
I'm going to hand that one to you first.
It's more about the awareness and things like that, I would say.
Do you know what? If I was going to say anything to anybody, I would say it won't last. I promise you it doesn't last. And I'll tell you that from experience, it doesn't last. If you're going through stress and anxiety and you feel like you're the lowest you could ever be in your entire life, it won't last. But equally, and whether this is controversial or not, if you're riding high at the minute and you've got money, adoration, and you think you are successful, and you lose it all, sometimes, that's quite a valuable lesson, because you're going to find out what's important to you, who's important to you, and who's there for you when you've got nothing. So, actually, is that a blessing? Because those people that you thought were your friends, or thought were there for you, and actually aren't now, then actually maybe it's done you a favour. And you'll bounce back. But when you bounce back and you go back to the top again, who are you going to take with you? Who's going to be there with you?
Yeah.
These people, not those people. So actually, always remember, if you're here now, it's not going to last. It does not last. And so I would say to anyone, and that word hope, if you've got a Batton of Hope, that word hope, you have to take that, you have to always take that word with you, hope. There's always hope. And you can see it, you can read books, you can see people who've overcome illnesses, miracles, everything else, and they've turned their life around. So many examples out there. And it's just surround yourself and listen to things that are uplifting, and there's people, isn't there? There's the drainers, the ones that bring you down, and everything is shit, life is shit, they're bleed, do whatever. What do you want to surround yourself with? People who uplift you and have got kindness and have got aspirations, and they're not jealous, they're not envious, but they can look at someone and be inspired, and you can aspire to be like someone else, if that's what it is. And I always say to people, don't base happiness on success, base success on happiness. And although happiness can be a response to something that's quite fleeting, but success can change, and everyone's got their different view on what success is. So I'll say to people, don't do something for the validation of anyone else. It's just be you, and it doesn't last.
Yeah, I think it's quite powerful. There's I read recently that there's been several interviews regarding there was a huge study done on for interviews done on people's deathbeds, like at the end of their life, and it was like they'd ask hundreds of thousands of people what's your biggest regrets, and like the top 5 were well, number 1 was I wish I'd lived my life through my eyes instead of others. And I think, going to kind of back to what I said earlier, that it's people are now trying, even kids are trying to like sell their image on this social media, and it's about selling an image to the world about what they think you should be, and it just has the anxiety of everything. Where it's just now it's simple tick boxes, like, does that make you happy? Like what you the way you put it was really well done, actually, in the fact that it was don't base happiness on success, base success on happiness. And I've always been some like exterior motivated on things about, well, that I need to prove this, I need to show that, I need people to see me in this way, and I've just drawn everything back to this, even the smallest decision, and was like, will this make me happier? Yes, no, there you go. So just breaking it down and writing things down, like you said before, is a really good thing. Like going back to the Batton of Hope, am I right in saying it's the UK's biggest suicide awareness and prevention initiative?
Well done. Yeah, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Well done. Well remembered.
Yeah.
Well researched. Wow.
So you said you did a year ago. Yeah.
Yes.
What stage was it at then? So now we've talked about kind of the amazing day, which sounded phenomenal in Sheffield. So you've had like a year to see it grow. When you was Sheffield quite late into this now, because what I'm glad you mentioned it is actually national wide. We were lucky to have an amazing day in Sheffield, but it does sound like it was across the UK. But again, was Sheffield early into the lifespan of the charity, or did Sheffield come later on?
I think obviously because Mike lives in Sheffield, Ross grew up in Sheffield. Sheffield was always going to be part of the tour. So I think we came on at a later stage. Some of the project leads were already in place for the other cities. At the point that we joined, we were a bit later sort of joining, weren't we?
Yeah.
I think Mike was going to try and, as well as being the co-founder and sort of overseeing things, he was going to try and sort of organise the tour bit for Sheffield, but obviously that was quite a big ask for him.
Yeah.
So he kind of needed somebody else to come on board, which is where we sort of came into it. And obviously being from Sheffield, passionate about Sheffield, it kind of, when we met Mark, it was that instant connection with him. And it kind of fitted right for him and right for us, if you like. So then we could sort of embrace what the tour was going to be about. Obviously it's never been done before, so it was sort of new for everyone. So we had to kind of find our way, obviously working alongside the other project leads, but each city was different on their approach to how they wanted their day to be.
Yeah.
For us, we wanted it to encompass everything that Sheffield was about, which is why we started at one at Hillsborough, and we are Sheffield Wednesday fans as well. So that was always going to be.
It was always going to start
our starting
basically.
As you exit today, I'd recommend just popping into the office just to see the Sheffield Wednesday shrine on his wall.
That's right.
Absolute shrine.
And obviously Wolf Oaks is an ambassador as well for the Batton of Hope, so it just kind of sat right at starting at Sheffield Wednesday. But then obviously we toured the whole city. Like we said, we went to sort of landmarks like the Lead Mill and obviously
We didn't mention Kelham Island.
Yeah, we went.
Going
Yeah,
back to the steel industry.
Yeah,
we
we
wanted
did.
to.
Yeah, 'cause that were a big part.
We wanted to incorporate sort of the steel and the sort of the manufacturing industry, and part of that was visiting Kelham Island, and we brought like the business sector down there to make them aware and to bring them on board, and basically creating a charter. Yeah, the workplace
charter.
Yeah. And bringing sort of businesses on board and giving sort of their perspective on how they find their workforce and things and what they do for their workforce and around that. So Kelham Island was sort of a focal point for the sort of the business sort of sector. Sorry, I took over.
No, it's fine.
That's
how we work.
I know you spoke about the future of the Batton of Hope with the drop-in centres and things like that. What other upcoming events have they got coming up?
We're in the middle of sort of
very good little link.
Segue.
So we're in the middle of sort of planning what sort of next. There was talk of a tour next year, and again similar sorts of things in terms of cities. We've already got cities that are championing that they want to actually take the Batton of Hope.
What cities are involved then? Obviously we've got the best. We've got Sheffield.
Yep. London, Cardiff, Belfast.
Bristol,
Newcastle,
I don't know, miss something.
Glasgow,
Edinburgh was in there, yeah.
So it is the UK as a whole.
It is the UK, yeah, it is the UK as a whole. And then from that, the project leads that were on board for the tour last year have now made another sort of side group. We are called the Executive Committee. Is that correct? Executive group.
We are on the Sheffield committee.
Yeah.
And the executive group, aren't we? So for Sheffield, there is going to be a conference taking place this year. The workplace charter is, I think it's more or less in place, isn't it? And
just on that workplace charter, obviously I believe personally, one of the biggest stumbling blocks to mental health issues is workplace and stigmas attached to it. So having experienced something similar, I believe partly caused due to a workplace issue, primarily my own, doing too much and not being at home. But I've also seen the other side where opinions have been formed about somebody based on the fact that they have had a mental health issue, and I don't say that as fact, I say that as an opinion. I believe that it has been formed of my previous colleagues from management and things. It is a thing that people obviously do hide because they think it's going to affect the workplace. So what does this workplace charter involve? Does that help to give protection to employees, or what's the basis around it?
Yeah, it's around making employers and employees aware of the things that they can access, breaking down that stigma, for them being able to feel that they are freely able to talk about these thoughts and these things that they are experiencing, and for them not to feel that they are going to be, I don't like to use the word punished, but it's going to affect what people think about them, how they do their job. And it was more about making employers aware that these are a criteria of things that they can do, that employees can be able to access support and help from management, from their key workers, so to speak, the ones that are above them, you know, the ones that are in power, as we say, for them to be able to, and it's a set of criteria, a set of, I don't want to say tick boxes, but a set of things that employees are going to put in place. So there will possibly be posters, there will be somebody that they can go and speak to, there will be a designated person who is responsible for mental health and wellbeing. Again, promoting that mental health first aid training that we ourselves at Direct Action Training and Marvel both do together. It's being able to make people feel that they are secure and they can talk about it. Rather than them going back to your point, hiding away and not being able to say that I am struggling, I am finding things difficult. So, yeah.
I think one thing I want to just say, and it's not really a question, more of a statement, I think one of the big important things is normalising conversations around it, but actually sort of confirming the type of language used. One of the things that kind of, you guys probably get this on your training, committing suicide and using that phrase is one that kind of we steer clear from, because it's not a crime. It's not a crime. It was previously, but it isn't anymore. But it's just conversations around things like that I think people don't understand. And
it's the terminology.
And it again, to somebody who is in a crisis, who is having suicidal thoughts, to use language like that, just the word commit indicates that it's wrong. And at that point, Paul, you touched on this quite early on in the conversation, that person sees no alternative at that point. They just want the pain to end. So is it wrong for them to want their pain to end? If you had a headache, you'd want it to stop. If you had that constant, and obviously it's a lot more severe than that, you'd want that to stop, wouldn't you? So I think just a statement rather than a question, but I think that's one thing that absolutely we must kind of try to normalise conversations around it, but actually make sure we talk about it in the right way. Don't know if you agree with that? Or?
Yeah. It's one of the things that I think both myself and Sara have learned in coming to be involved with the Batton of Hope is the terminology that's used and the language that is used, and we both work with small children, and we teach mental health and wellbeing things from a very early age. We go and tell stories to nursery children, and it's being able to give them, in the basic form, the language to be able to express themselves. So making them aware of their feelings, what words they can use. So again, right from being little all the way up to being adults, we all need to be aware of those words, those thoughts, those things that we can say to reach out to people, both ourselves and both people reaching out to us, that we are struggling, we are finding it difficult. And committing suicide and taking your own life is a phrase that both myself and Sara have learned, and the stigma around that and that committed word is something that we've learned on this journey, definitely.
I think it's important to touch on what you said about the kids. So Albie's my little boy, he's 3. They do the same at school, but it's their teachers teach them, and it's fantastic. But he'll say, I feel red, or I feel yellow, or I feel green. Yeah. And so they use that as their guide to say, I feel angry, or I feel... So red would be angry, or scared, or yellow would be, I don't know how I feel, or I'm sad, and green is obviously, I feel happy, I'm excited. And so to be fair, it's something that when I first heard it, I thought, he's 3, teaching a 3-year-old, but then obviously within 10, 15, 16, that's great, because he will come home and he will say, I feel red and I don't know why, and it's just that he is having an off day and he's unhappy that his sister's pinched one of his toes or something. But then it's normalising saying there's something wrong with me, rather than detach and go away, and that feeling then builds and builds and builds and can develop. So it's normalising it from an early age, and it's a wonderful thing.
We've just done the exact same with my daughter, and the colours and the schemes. We've got teddies, and so she can see like faces and stuff, and so we turn it into games of just like do the angry face dad and stuff like that.
How is your angry face?
Not very good. I'm more of a happy persona, I would argue, or at least in my daughter's eyes. But with again, just kind of touching on what a lot that we spoke about, I think it's important for people to know. Anyone listening, anyone that you've spoken to before, needs to understand that they shouldn't wait until it gets to rock bottom. Like, I feel the word depression is thrown around too often. I just feel depressed today. I'm like, depressed is a very critical state, and it's a point of which not many people who claim to have used the word have experienced. But having these normalised conversations, it is about a preventative state. It's about preventing getting to that state. And again, it's kind of why I want to be open and why I'm happy to talk about. I think I've not been with this team long. I think on my third day of meeting you, I talked about my therapy. It's I want people to understand that I am comfortable in it, and I've not gone to that extent, or personally I don't. I've not gone to an extreme state, but I've recognised that actually I do need help in what I do struggle with in life, and rather than go, but I'm not depressed, I'm not at that state, I'm not thinking about suicide, but actually still needing help is okay, and it is about preventative, in my opinion, for me, and I think that should be normalised. It shouldn't be waiting. I'm not that bad yet. I'll see if things change. Don't wait. Seek help or do your research. And you mentioned earlier about the research you put into it, Paul, about for anyone watching on YouTube, they might have spotted your nice gold cup on the table. You give us a demonstration earlier before, but you big on Tibetan meditation about within the research you started. So do you want to talk about a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I started looking into, there's a lovely Buddhist centre around the corner from me, and I've always been kind of fascinated by that. And certainly when I looked into, it's quite funny, there's an old samurai warrior called Miyamoto Musashi. Have you heard of it?
I don't know why, but the name rings a bell.
Yeah, so there's actually quite fun around Ronins, and back in, obviously in Japan, there was this samurai warrior who was the greatest swordsman of that period. And this is why I say to guys that could be a guy, well, if the greatest samurai to ever live can be a philosopher and follow meditation and everything else, and you can manage it, and so can other warriors and martial artists, etc., and they can adopt it, then give it a go and try it. Why do they do it? Because they've got to quieten your mind. So if I have to kind of change the way I relay how I talk about things, because you'll get blokes will go, no, that's a tree hugger, and you can't do that, and blah, 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 blah. And you go, right, okay then, so how am I going to kind of go to just to give it a go? So then I use these examples of going, well, if martial artists and fighters and everything else can do it and everything else, then give it a go. So started researching into it, and then their philosophies of meditation, and it's not what happens to us but that we can control. We can't control the circumstance, but we control our reaction to it. And I've done guided meditations, and I went there and I've seen the monks and the nuns, and actually interviewed a monk. And it's just fascinating. You go, yeah, it is right. If I'm stuck in traffic and I'm anxious because I'm going to be late for a meeting, there is nothing I can do about that traffic. Anything about it. My response is, well, I can call them, I can apologise, and it's something out of my control. It's then on you to go, well, what can we do? Can we then get a reschedule? Can we do this and this and this? Getting anger is that situation, and I'm not in control of them, so I'm not in control of mine, not in control of my emotions. I allow myself 5 minutes. If I feel anger, I feel this emotion, I let that go, let that process, something else, and then bring myself back. So then I learned to meditate and then to kind of control my breathing. And I bought this Tibetan singing bowl, which is so you wouldn't believe people go, "How you're like that?" I'm like, yeah. So in my office at home, I have a button on the wall and everything else, and I have this, and if I'm feeling quite anxious, and you can get I'll leave it up down a bit. It's so cool this. And then you just run it around the edge, and the noise will resonate. It just gets louder, and the noise, and then, like if you do it, there's such an art to it, about the pressure you hold on to it. But when people are meditating, they really struggle, so you have to kind of go, well, can I do something else that I focus on? All you're focusing on is this. And as it starts to bang slightly, so it gets louder, and then you have to control it. So then, did you hear about how it's like there's a little kind of... So then you go, well, I'm going too hard or too fast, and then you kind of go slow it down. But all you're focusing on is that. And it's just repetitive. Most people say, well, if you exercise and you do skipping or you do something that's repetitive, it's the same thing. That's really good for you. So when you're doing this, all you're focusing on is getting the right speed, getting the right pressure, and hearing the noise vibrate and go higher. That then gets into your own brain waves and takes you from high gamma to a theta state, and it changes the brainwave patterns and has this calming effect. So when I looked into the brain waves, they say that when you start meditating, you can either do something like this and listen to the frequency from that, or you can download them. You can go on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, and download them and listen to them. And you can also listen to a thing called binaural beats. I don't know if you've heard of those. So binaural beats are certain hertz frequencies, and they're slightly different in the right ear and the left ear. You put headphones on, and they will take your brain waves down to a theta level. So theta is just where you go to sleep. And so when you do it, it's so trippy, and you'll feel, and they say if you sit in a relaxed position and you relax with your shoulders, you can either sit, you can lay down, and you can either guided one or just listen to the certain frequencies and say you sat there now and you relax your jaw, because I guarantee everyone's jaw is like this. It's tight round here, and the tongue will be on the roof of your mouth. So then you relax your jaw, take the tongue from the roof of your mouth and let that relax. And then you relax your shoulders and you take it down. All of a sudden you're in this different state, and your shoulders drop and this drops. Your brain waves alter, and you're in this relaxed state. And then when you get really good at it and you're really there, it's really trippy. Like, it's awesome. It's really trippy. I can't describe it. I don't know if I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. What you can't is it's the state just before you go to sleep. So the state before you go to sleep and the state when you wake up. So when you wake up and you're in that theta state, instantaneously your alarm goes off and you go, you're stressed, you've got cortisol running through your body, everything's stressed, you picked up your phone, you're looking at emails, you're going, oh my God, you're stressed immediately, your brain's going straight up there. And the same thing before you go to bed is we're on our mobile phones, we're looking at garbage on social media or checking an email or whatever it is. It's to ditch it and do something an hour before that has nothing to do with work, emails, social media, nothing. It can either be a meditation or something else, or read a book or something that's going to calm your mind down and take that down, because you're going to absorb. They say that's when you're doing, you can retain more information in that theta state. You can absorb it. So you can almost like reprogram your mind, and that sounds ludicrous. But if you're going to bed and I'm thinking about an ex-partner, finances, job, or whatever it may be, you're not gonna repair your mind. You're not gonna repair. But you say your brain wash. It's this phrase: the brain washes itself every night, and it repairs, isn't it? But if you're not getting that rapid eye movement sleep when you go to bed, you're gonna you're not going to be rested. You're going to feel more anxious when you wake up anyway. You're still going to be stressed. So managing these small little tweaks. One of the best things, I just sit there and I just do this for 5 minutes. We'll play it. I've got the playlist on my phone as well. And I think, you know what, I'm super stressed at the minute. I'm still learning. I'm going to put some headphones in. Phone goes on Do Not Disturb. And it goes away. I don't respond to texts or emails straight away and all the time. Because I guarantee it, you might have an email or a text message that comes in, instantaneous anxiety from certain individuals or certain companies or certain things in the house. They flood you with anxiety. Do not disturb. Done. Left. Put away. Do something else. Eat some nice fruit or do whatever or watch, I don't know. I've actually got paid for the YouTube thing now, so I don't get the adverts.
Yeah.
I'll find some motivation thing. I like stuff like Dr. Joe Dispenza. Have you seen any of him?
I'm not really good with names, but I've seen a few things on YouTube.
Books. He's incredible. And there's another app called Getty or something it's called. And they have loads of documentaries on well-being and meditation and health and people who've overcome bad times or illnesses or whatever it may be, and the power of the mind. And they talk about the placebo effect. If the placebo effect works on an illness, then it can work on anything, right?
Yeah.
But equally so, you can create anxiety. And so I went, no, mobile phones, no. I went off social media for ages, for about a few months. This is actually causing me anxiety. It's ridiculous. You can't, because I think people are so addicted to these mobile phones now, one of the most addictive things on the planet. Certainly for young people, they think they've got to behave or do a certain way, and there's all these people going, oh, I drive a Bentley and a Lamborghini and I'm in a plane. No, you're not. It's not even your plane. That's not even your Lamborghini. But you'd say, I've got to wake up at 4 in the morning and I've got to do this and this, which is exactly what you were saying about all of a sudden now, I've done all this, I've got a Lamborghini maybe, I'm miserable. My kids don't know who I am, they don't want to talk to me. I'm now going to end up getting divorced because your wife or your husband has now gone off somewhere because you're not there. You're not showing them that you love them. You're not giving them some, the attention or making them feel valued. So just pull yourself away from it. One of the best things I ever bought was that. Should celebrate, shouldn't I? I've got a link on this podcast.
Yeah. Do you implement that every day into your life?
Try to, yeah.
Yeah.
Just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I just sit. Because I used to have a number of things going on at once. I couldn't even sit on my laptop without having something else, and watching something else, or doing this and that. I think I've got to do that, and I think, oh my God, there's no wonder that processing power of your brain is fried. You know what you're saying about having too much? You get like pressure cooker syndrome. It's when you're saying about suppressing it. If you don't deal with them and you suppress them, so you suppress emotions, you suppress everything that's going on. You've got 5,000 things that you need to do, and they may be some may be small tasks, some may be quite overwhelming. You will end up dealing with none of them. None of them will get finished.
Yeah.
And then you'll feel shit, and then you won't do anything else, and then you procrastinate on them. So I try to implement and do things like this. I go to the gym. I drink far too much coffee anyway, but there's no way I can give them that. I do talk like that. So if I give up alcohol, I can give up anything apart from coffee.
So with the meditation, when you researched it and looked into it, was that early in your mental health journey? So when, was it early on when you were doing your research, or was it kind of afterwards when you were maybe at a state where it was like, actually, I am the power of my own body, I am the power of my own mind, let's try and take this further, and then you would branch out into this kind of stuff? Where would you say it was? So
I reckon about 14 years ago, I started reading about Buddhism. I was quite fascinated by it. And I came across it by accident, and I used to be quite blasé and going, I'm invincible, I can do this, I can survive this. I've survived some pretty and some people like to work with, you've got a guardian angel. And do you want me to tell you something about there's an armed incident that I was involved in? So this is the thing that
It's
triggered
in
me.
my notes I wanted to ask about, to be honest.
So that's the thing that there's a number of things, and I don't know how where I can take it of seeing things. I'll be open of stuff I've seen and done, if it's appropriate for this podcast.
So open mind to
So-
that, Paul.
Even so when I was younger and something else, quite a traumatic childhood and everything else, but you kind of forget all that kind of stuff. You think, oh, it didn't bother me, and I played sport, and that was my thing to get out. And then when I joined the Met, I was like, oh my god, this is a dead body. This is now a dismembered body. This is now something else. This is now a child. This is that. And I'm like, oh my, this is. How do I process this? Is it not real? Do I kind of imagine it's not real? Is that? And then I'm going to somebody else, and then there's someone's thigh, there's someone's arm, it's just horrific. And you go, okay, and then you go to something else, and then I end up taking these things quite personal, because I want to fix things, I want to help people, and then you don't know how to process it, so you think, well, I'm a lad, I'm going to pub. And then it sits there. So then one after the other, it sits there. And then I was asked to go on this robbery unit, so robbery was through the roof. And I was like, yeah, cool, I'm kind of challenged. There's about 20 odd a day in this one segment of London. And
What, 20 robberies a day?
in one area.
Wow.
For 20 odd a day in one area. And there'd be knife point, there'd be everything else. And then I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So I've gone around with Abercrombie t-shirts and stuff. you know what I mean? I'm like thinking I'm cool, this is great, and all the rest of it. And we kind of recruit some of my mates that we play rugby with and stuff, and so we genuinely thought we were invincible. And there was the book The Secret had come out. Remember you said the book The Secret?
Yeah.
What we think about you can bring about. And I was like, I read this, and I was kind of always dipped into kind of spirituality and other things, and I'm like, nah, things happen for a reason. I dismissed it, and the things would happen, and I'd know about them. I'm going way off here. They were like, whoa, he's definitely not wired up right now. And I think there must be more to it. And then we were in the office, and we were talking, and someone came in and says, what would you do if someone pointed a gun at you? I went, I'd run him over. And there was four of us, and we had to drop one of the lads off at King's Cross train station. He was going home, and then there's three of us left in the car. And it was an unmarked Vectra that had the lights on in the grille, and you put the light on the top, like a TV show. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So we never wore bulletproof vests and stuff, anything else, just had like a radio and that. And then it came over that the TSG, the Territorial Support Group, or the riot band guys, were chasing a suspect towards Grayson Road. And Grayson Road is a one-way road that comes down to King's Cross. So we were like, oh cool, around the corner, let's kind of go. So we put the light on top, kind of go against the traffic that's driving up here. And we're listening for the commentary. And I said, let's pull into this junction here. So we're at this junction and wait for the commentary of where they're going to come out. And next minute, it's like slow motion of there's a group of people on the corner, and then it literally bang, 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 bang. And I went, fuck, he's there. So he's opened fire, shots are fired out, people scattering around everywhere. And the guy tries to hijack a London taxi, and he's trying to open the door, can't do it, the taxi pulls away. I can see this guy like slow-mo running in front of our car, so that light's taken off. And I'm thinking, holy fuck, what do we do? What do we do? And it's like, it just goes quiet. Everything goes quiet. So you're in fight, flight, or freeze now. And your gut instinct is going, I want to get the fuck away as quick as possible right now. But you're in this, and going, what do you do? And as you hit that sort of, and I've spun it around, we're face to face, and he's pulled a guy off a motorbike. And we're probably from here to, I don't know, that door, about 20 metres or so. And he's going to go and pick the bike up. He's still got the handgun in his hand, and he's pointing the gun on his knees. I'm face to face with him, and I hit the accelerator, and I squash him, and I land the tyre at the front wheel on his chest, so he's like under the car.
Wow.
So I stopped it there. I'd driven a bit further, I'd killed him, his head would have gone and we stopped it, and I stopped there. And the CSG that were chasing him and stuff, and everything else had come round from the wall and pulled the car off him and everything else, and he gets detained. Everything else, we had a video camera, and I think, right, we've got to kind of cordon off everywhere. And I had the video camera, and I've gone round, and I can see there's handguns on the floor. The magazine had fallen out. And I'm like, whoa, holy shit, that's a real gun. And then you can see the bullet holes in the door.
Wow.
And thankfully, by the grace of God or whatever, he'd ran out of bullets when he pointed it. But bizarrely, you can go, well, what's the odds of that happening? What's the odds of someone coming into my office and going, what would you do if this isn't?
Yeah.
And you go, maybe I'm not so invincible as I used to think. And there is more to this stuff, because did someone give me a warning? Is it pure luck? Is it something else? I don't really know. I'm just very grateful because I did what I said I was going to do. Never in a million years thinking that was going to happen. And that was almost like not like a light bulb moment of going, you're not invincible. Here's a little warning for you from whoever, universe, God, whatever we will you believe in. And it sat with me for a while, and it wasn't until, do you know why I do the boxing stuff with
Yes.
So that was the biggest thing, and then we were going off duty, and there's no one to deal with the stabbing on this estate, and we were like, guys, we've got to go back. I'm about to go home. I said, we've got to go back.
Also, the stabbing was the same.
It was very, very close. It wasn't the same night,
Right.
but it was super close to this period.
Yeah.
And whether I'm being tested or whether something else is going on, I don't know. I'll just go. There's a lot more to it. And we went. Me and my mate went, and this young lad had been stabbed, and it's just chaotic on this estate. Very anti-police as well. And there was a nickname going round of the person who had stabbed him, and I'm like, I remember that nickname. I know that nickname. And I'd arrested him as a probationer for shoplifting. I went, I know who that is. But I went with the victim to the hospital, and out of everything, probably the worst experience ever, in the fact that the parents and everyone, the family are outside and they're crying, and that noise is, the noise is horrific, because they can't come in, they can't see their child. I have to take the clothes away and forensicate them. And out of all the stuff, it's probably the biggest thing that triggers, because if I'm telling you now, I can picture it, I can hear it,
Yeah.
I can be there. And I was like, how can you change? How can you get rid of that? So that was one of the things where I'm like, I need to prevent. How can I prevent things happening before any things like this happen again? So I set up a boxing initiative. I was trying to go think out the box and trying to do stuff and go into youth clubs and schools and teach boxing and all this kind of stuff, and then throw in the meditations, but going to, you don't need to carry a knife, you don't need to be this, you can do this, and give them something else rather than going, I need to carry a knife, I need to sell drugs, I need to do all this kind of stuff, and give examples of what I've done. And you can do the meditation, you can do other things. So then I chose the samurai warriors, and I give these examples of these guys do it. So it's not kind of tree hooking and other things you can do. So yeah, so that was there is things that even when I went for the CBT, and I don't know if you when you talk about PTSD, is it plays like a picture book. So when I first started having it, and
This is the CBT therapy.
Yeah. So when I relay these stories, and I tell the ones about the people and the bodies and the stabbings and the murders and stuff, I would be incredibly emotional, because I'd be living it. I relive it like a picture book, and that's the way I describe it. Is you can see every single image, you can hear every single sound, you feel the guilt of not being able to say to someone you feel all these emotions and you feel exactly how you feel that day, whether it was 10 years ago, whether it was 20 years ago, you feel it. So you have to then go, well, this is why I do that, because then if I'm there, I don't really want to be there. So I don't want to be 20 years ago. You can remember it. So I sit there, a little bowl, and I just do this, just for 5 minutes. And then I have to think about things and like remap and change my emotions. So whether it's my children, whether it's, you know, relationship of going out for dinner or doing something that's going to bring a smile to my face, I can then bring my back to this moment.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things is that.
Powerful stuff.
It's a very, very simple thing. That may not work for everybody, but that's my little get out of my own mind.
It's funny what works for you.
I use a phrase that going, your mind could be your best friend or your worst enemy.
Yeah, so true.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, the reason the reason why it was on my notes is because obviously with like the training you provide, the training we provide, we are essentially teaching people what to do in these crisis scenarios. If it's first aid, if it's mental health, but most of the time, like 99% of the people you teach, is likely that they're never going to actually deal with it. So the question I wanted to lead to is, what advice, and it can go to open the room as well, but what advice would you give to people that that may be exposed to a tragedy, like someone you're having to deal with a crisis, whether it be first aid, whether it be CPR, whether it be dealing with someone who's trying to commit suicide? Like, have you got some advice from the stories you've told and things like that of maybe how to take the realism out of the situation, just to focus on your job at hand, maybe?
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Your biggest thing is don't suppress how you feel.
Yeah.
Don't suppress the emotion.
Well, in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the moment, after, ever, do not suppress it. Whatever sexual orientation you are, do not suppress it. If you need to cry, you need to cry. If you need to feel angry, if you feel upset, you need to accept that's how you feel in the moment. You do not suppress it. It's perfectly acceptable. And everyone who's dealing with these situations or these scenarios, whatever it may be, has probably felt exactly the same. And you need to go, this is perfectly normal and acceptable to feel how you feel. Now, if you feel emotional and you want to cry, let it out. Because that's where the problems will then start to arise. Let it go. And if you're constantly reliving that in your mind, is to change the channel. Change it. Just change the channel. This is what worked for me. It's going, okay, I'm thinking about this now. It's taking me back there. I feel these emotions. I feel incredibly guilty. I feel incredibly sad. Where can I take my attention? I need to take it away. So even when I've had anxiety or I've had something come over me, it's so overwhelming, I can go, right, who's my go-to? Who can I call? Talk about anything. If I don't need to talk to me about anything. Tell me about your day. Tell me about anything you want. And all of a sudden, I'm not thinking about that anymore. I'm thinking about that. You can tell me about making coffee. You can tell me about something ridiculous that's happened. Doesn't matter what it is. You just need to then go, I'll just change the channel and think about something that could be anything whatsoever. And that's how I do it. I then go, well, I'm going to think about something funny. I'm going to go to that point. I'm going to go to this point. I'm going to go to that memory. Or I'm going to go to something that I'm aspiring to go to, an adventure or whatever it may be. That's how I handle it.
Yeah.
And about you guys?
Yeah, I would say very, very similar. Take yourself out of that and into something else. I kept reliving. I would wake up and relive my PTSD, like you said, like a picture book. I would keep saying that, so I had to kind of
compartmentalise
it. Yeah, but again, that was done through therapy. But I had to wait for that therapy, as we were talking before. So that time between waiting and actually having the therapy, I had to kind of lean on family to help me do that. So they'd say, oh, come on, let's go for a walk, or let's go and do this, so that would help take my mind away from, like I said,
it helped a
thinking
little
about
bit
that.
because I'd started the journey before
Yeah.
you, so I'd started doing some CBT things at the point that Sara had her difficulties. I had call it an out-of-body experience. I was teaching in the classroom and the children were doing whatever I'd asked them to do, but I was like looking into the situation. I was there, but I was like looking over them and everything was going on, but I wasn't present. So apparently one of the CBT things when we were discussing it was that I was that far detached from actually what was going on, because I was struggling that much, that I was reliving what was happening, but I wasn't present. Which was the last day I was actually in the classroom with that particular class, and I didn't go back for a whole year after that. So it was that realisation that I was there but I wasn't, but I was reliving it, and I relive that moment quite often. And I now recognise that in myself, having done the CBT thing. So when I come up against other situations that I find really stressful or really anxious, and I find myself doing that, I then recognise it, and then I can start to put into place the things that I've learned through CBT. So it is reliving those moments and not being able to live with them, but being able to manage them and support yourself as you go through life, and you find that different things then trigger things off as well.
Yeah. No, thank you. Appreciate it.
I think number one thing, we haven't mentioned yet is checking with friends. Because you know when someone's not being their normal self, not bubbly, not making jokes. Just check in. It's as easy as that. As a friend, as humans, that's what we should do. We should generally all look after each other. So if you can, reach out, innit? It's simple as that.
Yeah, definitely.
You can spot when someone's not right, and you can say you're okay. And I think one of the biggest things is social media. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
If you see someone whose page is flooded and it's just got some selfies on it, they're looking. So you put a selfie on, you get 100 likes, and you look amazing, you look great, blah blah blah. Dopamine hit. It's validation coming from someone, you feel better. Why? What is it? Or someone who goes quiet. It's very good. It's fine to be, a little bit quiet. You're gonna see little clues sometimes. Sometimes you don't see any. And it's those times of gone, how many people have gone, I wish I'd have just checked in. I wish I'd have just said, are you okay? Do you want to go and get a coffee? Do you want to, let's just check. You can see little changes. I go quite quiet and insular. And then I don't really want to talk to anyone. That's come fairly obvious. But yeah, it's just checking in on someone, because most people will go, they don't want to, but if they feel safe and you go, let's have a chat with them, you might find like how you were quite open and talked to your team, and you felt like you could do that. But if you go, how's it, how are you, how's it going, something else, you might find they might just...
My own experience, so when I left my previous job, I had about 6 months where I couldn't think of anything anywhere else I would rather... I couldn't think of anywhere that I would rather be less than work.
Mm-hmm.
But the stress of, if I leave, who pays my mortgage, who pays this, kids starting school, etc, etc. So I had about 6 months, and then eventually I came home from work one night, emptied a load of stuff out of the car, basically the following morning drove the car to work at 6 in the morning, and opened up, put my keys back in, locked the door, posted them through, and basically I'd signed myself off saying I need at least 2 weeks off, but I will come back and do notice, etc, etc. But I'd got to the point where it was kind of almost like somebody had just gone, snap, you need to step away. So I had 6 months where nobody kind of noticed there's something wrong with him. And one of the things actually I was going to just mention, you might have seen it, there's a video done the rounds kind of last 6 months. It's 2 football fans in a stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That's really powerful. Have you seen
Yeah.
it? You could probably put a link into it maybe on the
It's an
description.
incredible video.
Really good, really good. And it's you're looking going, oh God, I can't believe this is going to happen to that guy. And then it's the other one. Have you seen it as well?
I'm not actually. No.
It's a really good
Norwich,
video.
isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Norwich.
I've just pulled it up to double check, but yeah, it's really powerful. And that, just like you say, some people, you will see signs, but then there's others where you know it's not always there, and sometimes they'll just hit a breaking point. Fortunately for me, I kind of know my own breaking point and stepped away. But some people aren't as fortunate and don't see a route out of there, and it's that's where the problems come.
Oh, it's that thing where you say to somebody, "Are you okay?" and they say, "Yes, thanks, I am okay." And you might do that.
Are you really okay?
Yeah, and then it's kind of looking at that person and thinking, are they actually okay? Maybe going back to them and saying,
Yeah.
like Paul said, do you want to go out for coffee? Do you want
Yeah.
to...
And this podcast is proudly brought to you by Marble Training Ltd. You can find us at www.marbletrainingltd.co.uk for all your training needs.
Or as well, probably over the last year ourselves, I think we've probably learned from doing the project lead role about talk. We think that we talk to each other, but do we actually
But no, you're right. You said it earlier, women talk. Men talk to some extent, particularly when they're out of earshot of women. But it's what do you talk about, isn't it? It's one thing saying, did you see football last night? It's another, how are you?
Yeah.
But how are you really?
Yeah.
And again, it's, I know we're kind of touching on men, but it is a huge thing that men in particular, you've touched on that culture, Paul, of I'm a man, I go to the pub and I do this. And it's just, we're quite fortunate, I think, that as things develop, my kids hopefully will be growing up in an era where that is the norm, that people say this.
That's the hope, isn't it? That's the hope.
But unfortunately for you know, men of our age and above, it's not. It's for a lot of people it's hidden. But yeah, it worries me. But
I think for the Batton of Hope, that's one thing that we're working a lot on behind the scenes and continuing that thing of getting together and talking. And in each city that sort of had the tour, we're kind of looking at what we can do now. The tour was impacted so much, but what is it that we can do a year on now?
Yeah.
You know, that for those people that came together but kind of then drifted away, can we bring them back together?
So it's not a
Something.
one-day celebration.
No.
How does it make meaningful, lasting change?
Yeah.
So-
Lasting legacy.
So see if I can segue better than yours. So how do people get involved? How can they help?
We obviously, like we say, things are still going on behind the scenes. Batton of Hope is still quite new, if you like, and still developing. Mike's working really hard, bringing people in that have got sort of different roles that they can bring and skills. We're still heavily involved and obviously doing things in Sheffield. We've got the conference coming up on the 16th of May,
Yes,
I want to say.
well done, at the Octagon.
At the Octagon in Sheffield. So you can buy a ticket now for that. It's in around the workplace charter, so that we're kind of focusing on that, but it's still around obviously suicide awareness. There's going to be some quite inspirational speakers there. Tell me who there is, Claire.
Now I'm trying to remember. Is it
Professor...
Shall I look? You talk and
Yeah,
I'll look.
so yeah, we've got a lot of people who talk very passionately and are involved in
Alistair
suicide.
Campbell.
Yeah, there we
Alistair
go.
Campbell.
There we go. Anyone? Who else have we got?
Don't know.
Yeah, so that's how happening. But we're also trying to organise a mini event. So around the year that the tour was the 8th of June.
Right.
Last year we're doing something again in June, because all the people that have kind of been involved last year are kind of saying what's happening now, what is there. They're wanting that sort of to get together and yeah. So we're trying to organise something again in June. We're talking with Ash, who's obviously part of Marvel. Around some football stuff that we can do. Obviously, again, talking about the football and bringing everybody together, doing community kind of stuff. So we're working behind the scenes on a lot of things. Go on.
I'm ready.
Go for it.
And speakers are Alistair Campbell, the President of International Association for Suicide Prevention, Professor Rory O'Connor, Sally Orange, MBE, who was an endurance runner, adventure athlete and mental health campaigner. She holds multiple Guinness World Records and has run over 80 marathons.
Wow.
Chris Moon, MBE, who's one of the few Westerners to have survived capture by the, I can never say this, Khmer Rouge, Khmer Rouge, and now takes part in international triathlons despite losing his arm and a leg in an explosion. And the Batton of Hope will also be on display, and it was created by the Royal Warrant holders, Thomas Light. There you go. And the Batton of Hope conference is sponsored by Westfield Hope.
How nice.
So there you go.
There will also be a lot of charities there as well, won't there?
And
like Samaritans.
Yeah,
Thursday,
Thursday, May the 16th, 9:30 till 4 p.m.
Very nice.
There you go.
In the meantime, where can people reach out to you?
Social media, we're all on social media platforms. Batton of Hope has got an amazing website. There are various different groups on Facebook as well for the various different cities. Have all got their own WhatsApp and Facebook groups as well. So just Google or research the Batton of Hope, and it will come up with all the various different things that we are doing, being involved in, the groups, the cities. It will come up with names of people that you can get in touch with from particular cities as well.
Very nice. How you feeling?
I'm good. So segue back to your journey, Paul. So we talked about you being in the Met. How did you end up getting into the TV and that side of things of your life? And as you spoke about your mental health journey, did it peak when you were on the TV show?
Wow. So obviously two sides to me. When I was a teenager, obviously it was either really I wanted to be creative, be in TV, or do something else, create something else. And I really enjoyed acting, because as a kind of before 10, I had a stutter, and I was incredibly painfully shy. And as I kind of hit secondary, I was just dreadful. I thought, well, how can I overcome this? How can I kind of build my own confidence? And I had no real guidance from parents or anyone to do this kind of stuff. It was all learning. So I used to just put myself in difficult situations. So I did the school plays and things, and did things that were terrifying, and then started playing rugby. I was terrified of playing rugby, and I was good at it. I come from a line of rugby players. And they were like, I'll play for the school team. I just did not want to play for the school team. Ended up playing for the school team, was captain of the school team, and we won the Yorkshire final. But this overwhelming, just, it's terrifying to do things, but you kind of push myself to do it. And it was really either join the Marines or kind of pursue a career in the creative industry. But then, my last school in 91 was, there's no phones, there's no computers to make this. How did you do it? How did you get into this kind of stuff? So I ended up actually joining the Met. I was at college and they were recruiting, and I thought, oh, that's kind of an exciting career and stuff. And then you can call it fate, you can call it whatever you want and everything else. But I just wanted to make films, I wanted to do this creative stuff, and I the lady who I would marry, her cousin had a job in Jessop's selling cameras. We sold some cameras to a guy who needed to make a short film. He needed someone to be a police officer in it. He said, my cousin did. So I did the short film, played as a police officer. He was, you can act. So then he wrote this short horror film, which went to all these festivals, which I was in. And then we became good mates, and we were shooting music videos, and he taught me how to camera operate, colour grade, edit, everything. And we kind of just went this journey together. And we were pitching things to Channel 5 and Channel 4. I wrote a film script that I got Bass Blackwell, who was Rory Breaker in Lock Stock. So I met him, and he's like, yeah, I want to do it. So I wrote a part for him. We were pitching it. And I wrote and did some other things. I sent a script to Channel 4, it was a sitcom. I was getting no. And we were just going and going and going. So while I was doing my job, I was sat in a shed in my garden, writing, creating this kind of stuff.
Just when you say you're doing your job, is this the police?
Yeah.
You were in the Met as a police officer whilst doing all this?
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So, and I'm quite resilient, and I don't like taking no, and it took me a long time, and there was a lot of no's. So me and Bass Black would have pitching out, and we would this kind of stuff, and I'm meeting all these people, and they were going to back it, and they wasn't. But in hindsight, I wasn't nowhere near experienced or talented enough to be able to pull it off. But I had to learn all this kind of stuff, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'll figure it out. I've got this vision, I've got this goal, I want something I want to do, and I'll figure it out. And then I ended up doing a music video. The lady who I would end up having a child with, who was in S Club, S7, went to America. This is a random set of circumstances. I got an email saying that there's this new TV show that they're looking for people to go on the run, and I thought it might be alright to be a fugitive. And so I emailed and went in to meet the production company, and then started telling them about what I'd done and stuff, and then there was a bit of interest in people coming in out of the office and stuff and everything else. And I was on camera, and they were asking me questions, and a mic on. And I forgot to take the mic off. I went home and I forgot to take the mic off. So I think it's got to turn. And I phoned up the producer and said, I'm ready, so I've got the mic. I've got the mic pack on me. I'll bring it in. And they'd already cast it. And as I'd gone back, we're in the lift, and she said, "Oh, there's a spot of a hunter that's free. They've already shot the pilot and been commissioned. Basically, what would you rather do?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'd take that on another job as a hunter. I mean, that's like the dream." And then I was cast, and they cast me in series 1.
So with the pilot, was it like the TV show that people know today, with essentially?
So they shot everyone had shot the pilot first, and that gets pitched to Channel 4, the commission editors, and then they commission it and take it on. And series 1 was quite different to how it is now. There's no prize fund. It was like the powers of the state, a bit darker, and that side. And then obviously the prize fund came in, and we made the celeb version, and so I was cast in that, and then. And in 2015, Tina then they'd done a reunion tour, all 7 of them. So she's doing that, I'm doing this, and then it was, you can be in this shoot, and I'd done a photo shoots and stuff and everything else. Wow, this is kind of surreal. But what's bizarre is, it was so to do TV. And all this kind of stuff was something I wanted to do as a teenager. And it took me till I was 40. And a lot of no's, there was a lot of a ton of rejection. A lot of, it's almost there, it's quite nice, it's almost, and we'll try that. And I was writing and all this kind of stuff and everything else, and it was like, wow, this is hard work. At what point do you give up? And there's a phrase, isn't it, 3 feet from gold, of you stop and then just before you hit gold.
Yeah.
And I hit it, but then I was like, oh, this is great, I've made it, but at a sacrifice. So I hit it, but my marriage had failed, and I'm like an hour or so, I don't see my boys, I see my children on the weekend. I'm like, so I've achieved this, but I don't have my children with me anymore. So it's a huge contrast, right?
Yeah.
Of going, is it worth it? Was it worth it? And I'd done it. And obviously I had another little boy and things and everything else, but the amount of, the difference is like, oh, this is kind of great. I've achieved something, but I've equally lost a lot. And where's the lessons in it? Well, then work is when I'm not doing that and I'm working as well. Life pressure is intense, and I'm almost now thinking there's now an expectation of me. So it's got even worse. There's an expectation of me now to be so. For example, someone would go to my son and go, "Oh, your dad's really scary," and he's like, "No, he's not." No, he isn't. My dad's just a complete cuddler. So I always tell my boys, I don't care how old you are. I will always tell you I love you. I'm always going to give you a cuddle, whether you like it or not. So I'm loving that. I've got no problem telling my boys, or telling my partner, or telling my wife, I love you. That's ridiculous. This is not unmanly at all. I think that's a good thing. Your children, always tell you that I love you. And even on a text message, I'm proud of you. I love you. They're my best mates. They're my kids. I love them. And so I had to kind of get my head around that, because you think there's failure in a marriage, it's failure. You think things happen for a reason. So yeah, that was, it's a huge. There's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me then to kind of fulfill or be something. So when people go, "Oh, you're not like that. You're kind of you have a singing bowl." So what am I? What is it? And then when we're filming, like some of my mates and that, and the lads on there, they laugh. They'll go, "Oh, Cashmore's so zen," and we don't get it. What? How? How is this? 3 of the lads came up, and we climbed all the peaks around the UK. Because his wife had cancer, and she sadly passed away. And 6 months a day, and I didn't know, but I invited 3 of them to come and stay at my house. And the day after, I took them to the Buddhist centre, and we did a free meditation. And 2 of them are boxers. One of them they runs a cycle company, super successful. And I didn't realise that his wife had always wanted to go and do meditation and go to a Buddhist centre and everything else, and didn't get a chance. So he's super emotional, very upset and everything else. And I would have to ask if he'd keep anything to say. And one of the other lads, his daughter had taken her own life not long before he was casting a show. And he just suffered kids. So he's there with me, and my other friend is there with me. A very, very emotional day. And so you've got 4 blokes in this Buddhist centre doing this free meditation, and one of the things that they took away from it was they'll never forget that moment that I arranged for them, and they let all these emotions out. So these are 4 blokes here now going, "Yeah, we'll do this, no, TV and Xboxes and everything else." But they're in so much pain. One's lost his wife, one's lost his daughter. And you have to be able to let that out. So they're doing exactly the same thing of, there's this image, there's this perception that you need to be something, be somewhere. So that was a thing for me of going, I've got to behave and act and do a certain way. So you kind of, not authentic, because there is an element of me of going, if I'm put in a situation, then I quite happily have a fight or protect my children or my partner or whatever it may be. But equally, when we're away from things, I'm going to give you a cuddle and put my arm around you and tell you that I love you, and maybe coffee or whatever it may be, or if I've got, if it's my partner now, I'm going to make a coffee and take her in bed and stuff, and be this kind of quiet, humble, kind of soppy bloke. But then there's this perception of me to be outside of going, well, I'm going to be this. Yeah. It's fine that too, but you need to be authentic. So I felt there was a lot of pressure on me to be a certain way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you switch it on for the show? Like, yeah.
So when we're filming, there's I think people take behind the scenes pictures. I love that AirPods on. If we're not filming, I'll put my AirPods on and I'll sit in the car. Super quiet. There's no text coming in from the camera, from the director. There's nothing coming in. And there's nothing going to happen on it. Great. I'm in a car back now. I'll go, they laugh, I'll get my matcha tea, and I'll get my kombucha, and I've got all this kind of stuff. I'm like, what on earth is that? And I've got my Derby beans, and I'm sat in the car, and I'm just sat there like this. And then when it comes on, and then she's sat up, and you go, you motherfucker! Get out of the car, that's the fuck. So when we did this, we caught speaking with somebody else, and Liv has turned up, and she's parked in her Mini, and everything else. I'm like banging the door, open the fucking door, open the door, and just dragging them, go inside, interrogating the phone. Anyway, I stopped filming for a bit, and I went on. It's great. I love what your parents do, and the work that they do and stuff. How's it all been? Thanks for doing this, and we're really grateful for you being part of it and stuff. And the camera person pops back. It's alright, hand over your fucking phone. Like, hold on a minute. So we'd go in, and someone would have like their dog and their golden retriever is coming up for a cuddle, and they go, oh, do you want a cup of tea? I was like, really? Oh, thanks, it's lovely, yeah. And this, that, and the other, and all the rest of it. And then you go up to me going, and then you just change, and I'll go, I don't know, whatever it may be. It might be just because I'm going to be I'm fucking going to be all over you. You need to be. I'm going to put. And they go, oh my god, he just changed his eye. He's staring at me. He's not going to let go. It's so unnerving. Then the cameras stop rolling, and you're going to go, somebody eat fans tonight. Then oh my god, this is a total head fuck.
That's hilarious.
That's messing with my mind. Yeah.
It is, and to be fair, the TV show does well in the fact that you don't think that's happening.
No.
Like, so it's written well and directed well to the point where, like, well, you talk about the image of yourself, like it's just by watching the TV show gives you that point, and I can imagine how just of a head mess that is. What kind of highlights have you taken away from the show? Like, what would you say is, like, I don't know, the funniest moments or the most surprising moments for you?
The best things that I love about doing it, I think the celebrity version raises a massive amount of money for cancer research UK. But it's that element of, you're watching this for an hour. You might have had the shittest week going, the most dreadful week, and for an hour, I've helped create something with an amazing team and a lovely bunch of people where you can just sit and not worry about
that's something
anything
version of that, isn't it?
for an hour. Yeah, for an hour. You just sat there and watched it. And it's a conversational piece of going, what would you do if you went to run? What would you do? And would you do this? A conversational piece.
It's weird. It's a weird topic where it does involve everybody. It's just like, what would you do in this scenario? So it enables people to talk to each other. What do you say is like a common mistake that people make?
Everyone's got a weakness. Everyone will be. So when you're hungry, you're sleep deprived, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to reach out, and you want that little support network. So it was quite funny. You can go in. There's I can't give any spoilers away. So we're back on the 17th of March. There's a new series coming out, and there's some great ones. Not allowed to say anything on that one. But you'll always find something. So let's just say someone has something they've not deleted things, and they go, "Oh, you've been there on holiday," or "That's familiar," or "These people are they quite a close network," or "This is quite a close network," and this is this and this, and you just find. So you have to have that element of going, "I'm going to be nice to you for a minute," because then you'll talk, and then I'm going to make it feel very awkward. And you don't know whether I'm your best mate or I'm your enemy now, or don't know what you're doing. And it's to find out whether you're lying or not, to You ever when people lie?
Great.
So I have to ask you questions that I know to be true. And then I find out what your body does, what you touch, where you go, where you look,
okay.
where you draw the information from. Because people say if you draw it from the left-hand side, you're drawing the right information. But that's not the case for everybody. So I have to ask questions that I know to be true. And then I'll ask questions of that I don't know, but I need to know what the answer is. So then, if I ask you a question and it's a 50-50 chance, and I now that you've drawn that information from the other side of the house, you're lying, you've done a little comfort touch or whatever it may be, and I can disregard that, so I now know the answer. So I know that it's a lie, great, perfect. Which way? This way, that way, that way. Great, love it. Watch people's body language.
So, the Batton of Hope conference, making suicide prevention everyone's business,
Nice.
is the title. How do we break the stigma in the UK suicide statistics? So the Batton of Hope is inviting everybody to come to the Octagon Centre in Sheffield on Thursday, May the 16th, 9:30am to 4pm. Be involved in lots of different things. We've got lots of different speakers, from Alistair Campbell, the politician, to Professor Rory O'Connor, to Sally Orange, all these prolific figures in the world of suicide prevention, and just basically to come down and hear lots of different speakers. We've got Christine Talbot and Duncan Wood, who are going to be the hosts. There's a little bit of a chat show going on the stage, so question and answers. There's going to be some marketplaces where people can get involved with charities, finding out what's out there. It's a national conference, so it's not just Sheffield. So basically, buy a ticket and come and see us.
All off the top of her head. Wow.
Wow, I know. It's amazing what I can remember.
And Paul, when will we be seeing you on the screens again?
There's a new series coming out 17th of March, and then there will be a new celebrity series that we've already recorded. There's no date for that yet.
Hope everyone's enjoyed themselves. That's been Marble Training Podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yay. Is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
Yay.